Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sisterhood of the Traveling Gi. This is your host, Ashley. In this episode, we sit down with Charles Harriott, aka the Mad Scientist. He is a black belt that has been in the martial arts scene over 18 years. His background involves Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, Kung Fu, the Universal Martial System, Taekwondo, American Kempo, kickboxing, breakdancing, and physics. He's currently a BJJ Globetrotter, which involves him traveling all over the world. He's been to about 30 countries where he gets to host seminars, teaching Jiu-Jitsu as well as practicing on his own. I met Charles through Daniel Perez BJJ before he became a Globetrotter. He was kind of a Jiu-Jitsu nomad, where he visited our gym one day, and he was very kind and open to just helping everybody break down the jiu-jitsu and analyze any issues that they were having. He has a very creative mind and unique perspective when practicing jiu-jitsu, as well as breaking it down, which is why he's known as the Mad Scientist. So I'm sure if you listen to this episode, you'll pick up something useful for your own jiu-jitsu. Once again, thanks for tuning in. Hello. Welcome back to Sisterhood of the Traveling Gi. I'm your host, Ashley.
Hey girl, hey. I'm your co-host, Edelia.
And we're here today with Charles Harriott.
Hi.
Mr. Black Belt.
Globetrotter.
Breakdancer. Extraordinaire.
I like the word extraordinaire. I'm here for it.
I'm here for it.
I gotta add that to my Instagram profile. Charles Harriott, extraordinaire.
You really should. You wear a lot of hats.
Yes.
And you're
It's
quite
impressive.
mesmerizing also,
indeed,
in
thank you.
general.
Try to mesmerize people. Yes.
Like even today in our open mat, I noticed like every time you would roll with somebody, you see somebody like on the sideline just, what is this guy? Oh my!
I
Like
do
you could
weird
see
stuff.
the like amazement in their eyes, and I'm just lolling because I'm like, bro, yeah, I feel that. Like when I first met you, like you just I don't know, really, you're just such a different type of person.
What? It's kind of by design. Because that's the part of jiu-jitsu that I love. Like, jiu-jitsu should look like magic. Like, it should feel like magic. Like, when I first did jiu-jitsu, like, I was a striker, and, like, this just someone could hold me down. Like, that was kind of magical. And, like, and it always seemed like they were almost bored. Like, this person's beating me up, and they look bored. So that was the style of jiu-jitsu that I fell in love with. And so, like, I look for that. I seek out moves that I can use almost effortlessly, but have a big impact aesthetically, or like can make this person feel in a way like this dude's not even trying and like he's throwing me around, or I like that. I like the low input of effort but big impact moves. And even if they don't score me any points, like the move that I was doing today punch doesn't score any points, but psychologically, like you just did a front flip. I know you felt that. I know you felt that.
I know you felt that. You saw how awesome that was. That's funny. So, how long have you been training exactly?
It's one of those numbers that's kind of moving. So for years, I was saying 15 years, and Natasha actually called me out and was like, it can't be 15 years. Like, why? It's like, you said 15 years when we met. We've been together 3 years. Pretty sure it's 18 years, Charles. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I guess it's 18 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, so I started out, it's all about the late date, because like I started out doing karate, and in my karate school we had like a guy who came and did a seminar. And he's like, this is ground fighting. It wasn't even jiu-jitsu or grappling, ground fighting. And we would do that at my karate gym. And that was back when I was like 16.
Well,
so
how old
that
are
would
you
be,
now?
I'm 36. So that
Okay.
would be 20 years ago. But I don't really count that, because that was like some blind leading the blind stuff. It was like a bunch of us just trying to figure it out. And like I thought I was a great grappler, and literally I knew like 3 moves. I knew a headlock, a literal like schoolyard headlock. I knew how to do, we called it scarf hold, or keizakatami from judo, to hold someone down.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew what we used to call the anaconda, which was effectively like a really bad guillotine that wasn't even choking anybody, and then close guard. And we didn't realize you were supposed to choke the neck. We were just squeezing really hard with our legs and tapping each other out, just squeezing each other's ribs.
Kidney squeeze.
And that was it. That was all the grappling we knew. And we would start sitting back to back and just try to maul each other. But that was my start. And then later on, I started off doing no-gi. And then finally, when I was around 21, did I get a proper gi instructor. And that was when I when I did gi, that's when I was 21. Then I've been doing it 15 years. But if you start, when I first started, it goes much further back. So it's like one of those, but I had, I guess what, 18, 19, 20-ish? It's all so fuzzy. That's why I just keep saying 15 years. It's easy.
It's fuzzy.
I think once you get to the black belt, I think the years matter less also.
Well, also, plus before all that, you have like 10 different martial arts.
It's been the one constant in my life. Like, and the funny thing is, it started because of Ninja Turtles.
Oh
No way.
Yep, I saw the Ninja Turtle movie when I was like 3, about to turn 4, and I learned that ninjas start training when they're 3, about to turn 4. So I was like, it's not too late to start. I can be a ninja. And my dad saw how excited I was.
My dad saw how excited
in true like immigrant fashion, he found some dude who was teaching Taekwondo in his garage, and he was like, my mom's name is Jackie. Jackie, we'll put the boy in this. And so I got to start doing Taekwondo in some dude's garage when I was like 3 turning 4, and then that dude opened a gym, and then I did Taekwondo with him for a couple of years, and then that dude got married, and his wife said he needed to get a real job, and so he sold the gym and became a prison guard, and then I started doing karate because the guy who bought the gym was a karate guy. And so now I do karate.
Yeah, no, now we're doing karate. That's funny. Did you get your black belt in karate?
I did. I got my kid. They had differences. It wasn't just karate. It was called American Kempo, the style of karate. And they had a thing where you got your kid's black belt, and then they got what you call your apprentice black belt, and then you got your adult black belt. So I got my first degree adult black belt when I was 16, after having trained for years, and thought I was a pretty good fighter. Along the way, I had learned some kali and our knees, because like once we already got our stuff, to keep it interesting, our coach would learn other martial arts and like teach it to us. So he taught us stick fighting. He taught us kickboxing. I met my good friend Alex Perez. No relation to Daniel Perez, just Perez is a common last name.
It's like Garcia.
And his family had been doing striking martial arts all life, and so we started doing kickboxing, Muay Thai, and I got into that. And then I graduated high school and like went away and like didn't find any martial arts I liked, and I started breakdancing.
Yeah.
And so I did that through college instead of doing martial arts, and then I fell into judo, and then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu came along after that, and then I fell in love with that. It's slowly, along the way, I did some Kung Fu and other things, but like once I really got obsessed with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I used to compare it to like, I don't even remember the exact phrase, but like it was slowly everything else started falling by the wayside once I really got obsessed with Jiu-Jitsu. The moment was when I started doing leg locks, because I realized that like, holy crap, like this leg lock stuff is like a whole other martial art. I need more time to get great at this. And so slowly, like, stopped doing Kung Fu, stopped doing Judo, stopped doing kickboxing, until all I really did was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I'll occasionally do some karate here or there. I still do Judo within the context of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but not really by itself. And the Kung Fu, I'll go back to my old Kung Fu school and visit my old coach there, because he's awesome. Like, he's a vampire. He doesn't age. The man hasn't aged. There's photos. Everyone else ages except for Sifu Dez. Sifu Dez is just looked the same way for like 30 years. Everyone else is aging. I don't know what he does. He's magic. It's ridiculous.
Wait, so how did you get into Jiu-Jitsu?
I got into Jiu-Jitsu via the MMA route. So I had been, well, actually, that's not true. First was I was taking at UF. They had the option to take Tai Chi classes as like for credit, and I was like, I get credit for learning Tai Chi. Cool. It was a 2-credit class. I took Tai Chi. In that class, there was another guy who was trying to make his own gym. He's just like, I'm learning this stuff at this dude's house. You want to come? Like, I'll learn some stuff at some dude's house.
That's how it started in the Taekwondo.
Yeah, it's in my history. So I went over there and I met this guy, and he did like his own mixed martial art thing that he called the Universal Martial System, which was like, had a little bit of grappling. And so I learned some like submission grappling from him along with his martial art. And then after that, there was an MMA gym in town called F2. And I walked in there, and on my very first day, with my striking background and everything, I thought I'd be fine. They dropped
like 10 martial arts.
They dropped me in the cage with one of their professional fighters the first day, the first hour of being
that
in there.
That also seems slightly abusive.
And we're just like, fight!
Her eyes shot open.
Okay, fight.
And I was doing fine in the beginning. Like, I had some good kicks. I was kicking him. This guy, luckily, wasn't a grappler. He was a boxer. And so, like, he was afraid of my kicks. I kicked him in the ribs a few times, and he was like, ugh. And then he pushed me against the cage and, like, straight up Agent Smith me. Like, just a million body shots of, and I had a great, I did pretty well. His name's Kevin Cage. He's still a friend to this day. But then, the second person they gave me was a grappler. Oh. And I was just useless. They just kept taking me down, and I would try to stand back up. They'd take me down again, and then I got knee barred, and then, like, it was a professional fight team. It wasn't a school at that point. Their goal was to produce professional fighters. And so because of that, the old way was, we're not going to teach you anything in the beginning because you're probably going to quit anyway. We're not going to waste our time teaching you. We're just going to spar. You're just meat. You're cannon fodder. And so they just would just use only sparring.
Yo, old school techniques are badass, but they're effective.
And so it's one of those things where, like, what they taught me was grit. They taught me toughness. And that was released. I already had some toughness when striking, but grappling toughness is different. They taught me psychologically not to break. Because that was what I learned in that moment was every other art I'd ever done, you could tell yourself, well, because in karate, we have lots of rules in point karate. Like, you can't elbow, you can't knee, you can't grab, all these rules. I'm like, well, if I could, you can tell yourself a story about why you lost. I lost because of these rules. I lost because of those rules. I lost because of the referee. But in that, MMA gloves, and you can do virtually everything, like no holds barred, like other than eye poking, you can do everything. Mm-hmm. And this person, like, held me down completely helplessly, and, like, even if I wanted to do something, I had that feeling of like the only thing that saved me was, like, this dude respecting the tap. I tapped and the dude stopped it. Like, if this dude wanted to, like, he could have strangled me to death. Like, I could have died. Like, that really, it really, like, I was completely helpless. Like, and, like, if I fought that dude, like, there's nothing I could do. He would take me down and I would lose. And that, like, I thought about that. And I was like, and then I asked this guy, like, how long have you been training? He's like, I've been wrestling for 3 years. I've been boxing for 1. Like, this guy's been training for 4 years. At this point in time, I'm like 20, 21. I'm like, I've been training martial arts for like 18 years. Or like 17 years. This dude's been training for 4, and he can beat my ass. I have to learn. Like, I can't, like, this is so unfair. I can't not know this stuff. And then that was...
This is unfair.
Like, that's what got me into it. And then slowly from there, like, I originally didn't want to learn Jiu-Jitsu. I just wanted to learn how to stand up so I could punch people and kick people in the ribs like I've been doing for years.
So 18 years of non-jiu-jitsu and then 18 years of jiu-jitsu?
Yes. No. Like, there's an overlap. There's an overlap. But, like, yeah. Like, I would say, like, at that point was, like, real training. Because I went back home to my karate friends who thought I was so good at ground fighting. And I was like, you all suck. Like, hey, don't be me. Don't be me, Charles. And I was like, you want to know how I know you suck? I'm the worst person at my gym, and I beat you. So by the transitive property, if I suck, you suck too.
Sound logic. That's funny.
And that started the obsession. And then, like, slowly but surely, I got more and more into it, and here I am.
I know at one point you said you were in school,
yeah.
And I know you studied science,
I did.
Right?
Mm-hmm. I was a physics major.
That's nuts.
And you bring that into your jiu-jitsu too, right?
I do, but at the same time, like, the physics that I bring into jiu-jitsu is like high school physics. Like, it's not. I'm not bringing in any, like, because in college I had to take classes like quantum physics and like things like that, and truthfully, like, none of that's really necessary for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Well, yeah.
Like, all this stuff for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is like basic physics, like simple machines, wedges, levers, kinetic energy. Actually, one of my favorite, but I do bring it in because I find it fascinating, and I think that the why of things, like I said from the beginning, you talk about things looking almost like magic. Like, I love magic. And like my favorite quote, and I'm probably gonna mess it up so I can get it, is like, any sufficiently sophisticated technology to the uninitiated is indistinguishable from magic.
Oh yeah.
And so like for me, it's, I want to make, by using these principles, I want to help people be mad scientists with me. I don't want to create monsters. I mean, you can, it's fun to make your monsters, but monsters can't learn on their own. They need you. I don't want you to be a monster. I want you to be a fellow mad scientist. That's my goal. And so by, simple thing, right? Like you learn in middle school, potential energy, the higher something is away from the ground, the more potential energy it has. You push it off, boop, now it has kinetic energy till it hits the floor. And so in Jiu-Jitsu, I don't like using my muscles to lift people. I can, but I like using that basic principle. If I'm sitting upright, I have more potential energy. I can now use my fall to affect you. Gravity doesn't get tired. I get tired. So I want to use gravity. And those basic concepts from middle school science class are super useful, and I find them to help you organize your thoughts to make your jiu-jitsu make sense. Because the more that it makes sense, the more you can troubleshoot. If you're blindly following a recipe, it's very hard to troubleshoot because you don't know what the hell you're doing. You're just doing what you were told.
Yeah, and that's like a really fun part of jiu-jitsu, the troubleshooting
Yeah.
and experimenting.
Well, in that troubleshooting and experimenting is where you find your true style.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So he's just trying to create mad scientists all over
Yes.
the world.
Yeah.
All over the world.
Free thinkers, free thinkers.
Free thinkers.
Well, I think it's the only way that we progress. Because if we, the reason why jiu-jitsu was able to come in, be jiu-jitsu, is because a lot of the other arts chose to fall in love with dogma and tradition. And so if you're so in love with dogma and tradition that you don't question why you're doing what you're doing, it's very hard to evolve. And so if you stop evolving and something else is evolving, even if you're ahead of them, eventually they're going to catch up and surpass you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be moving target. Which is, it's why, like, oftentimes, like, the student surpasses the teacher. Because either the teacher is truly pouring themselves into that student and that student has youth, but if the student is older than the teacher, they really shouldn't surpass them unless the teacher has stopped working on themselves and they no longer are a moving target.
Okay.
So, like, I constantly want to make sure that
You're a moving target.
I'm a moving target, but also that I'm not being selfish. If I'm a stationary target, it's going to promote me holding back. If I know that for arbitrary terms, I know that I know 100 things, and I want you to keep coming to me for knowledge. I can't teach you all 100 things, because now that I've taught you all 100 things, why do you need me anymore?
Yeah.
But if I'm constantly learning new things, new extrapolations, new concepts, new ideas, well then I'm constantly learning more, so I can give you everything that I know.
Yeah.
Knowing
Because
that,
you're still expanding.
knowing that
your
I'm
knowledge.
expanding, and so that's, I think it frees me to not be selfish with my jiu-jitsu. If I think that if I teach Natasha too much, well, she's gonna move on. She's gonna outgrow me if I teach her too much. Well, then I'm gonna be a selfish instructor. I won't be able to freely give to her or give to any of my students. And so I want to feel that freedom, right? That I'm constantly getting better and trying to improve myself in my understanding of jiu-jitsu. Even if I get to a point where I can't improve my execution of jiu-jitsu due to injury or age.
I think that's really important for like the progression and evolution of jiu-jitsu in general. Like I like that we're turning away from like the super traditional ways of doing things, and it's causing people to get more and more creative. People posting videos constantly of all the shit they're working on. Like I think it's definitely gotten out of the stagnance.
Yeah.
I think in every episode we've touched on how everything has evolved and how accessible jiu-jitsu is, that it only makes sense for the sport to have changed as much as it has, and for just things to be more complicated, because this is not the same as it was 10 years ago.
But the interesting thing is, right, if you look at it the right way, and then not the right way, but if you look at it a certain way, it's not so much that it's more complicated. I think it's more diverse.
Okay.
You can
That's
choose
better.
you can choose to make it complicated, and there's some people who pride themselves on how complicated their jiu-jitsu is. They pride themselves that about how high the learning curve is for the jiu-jitsu, right? Like, you couldn't do this because you have to have this background and understand these 18 things, and you have to go through this long system of progressions, and they like that. They like it being super complicated, and good for them. But my view is that all of those complications, they have to make sense in a practical, mechanical, and functional level. Everything that you do, if it's going to have legs for someone who has different body types and different styles, it must be efficient. It must make sense biomechanically or physically or what have you. So even if you doing some brand new move you just invented yesterday, for that move to be effective, it's going to have to follow certain rules of efficiency. Like you will not, like an example is like an anchored elbow. When I anchor my elbow, I'm stronger. I've anchored myself in place of power. This is true for striking in martial arts that involve striking. It's true in jiu-jitsu of times when I'm pulling things. An anchored elbow is stronger than an open elbow. Mm-hmm. Does that mean my elbow is always anchored? No. There's times when an open elbow is valuable. But simply me knowing that I want to make you weak, if I want to make you weak, I take your arm far from your body. You're very weak out here. Mm-hmm. If I want to make you strong, if I want to make myself strong, I put things close to me. Mm-hmm. And so I know in general that if someone is trying to do something to me, they're going to have to kind of play by those rules. Now, there's always the chance that they've made a discovery that violates my jiu-jitsu framework, my understanding of jiu-jitsu. And then they'll catch me. But then after that happens, I can sit down. I won't have to be like, Coach, he did something funny. What do I do? Help me, Coach. Instead, I can be like, okay, he did this thing. According to my understanding of jiu-jitsu, it shouldn't work. But it did work. So either well, is he super strong? No. Is it this? And then I can go through and try and analyze, like, I must be missing something. What am I missing? And so my view is I have these things that I call them jiu-jitsu truths. Some people just call them concepts or ideas. But it's a list of things that I haven't found an exception to in my jiu-jitsu career. And there's some of them are like aphorisms your coach might say. The most classic one that I've changed for myself is position before submission. Everyone says that.
We know
that.
Right? But how do you define a position? If you define a position as our scoring positions, that's just not true. There's plenty of ways you can submit someone without going through the classical ladder of jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. Leg locks being a great example, wrist locks as well. So it's not about position, it's about control. If I update position before submission to control before submission, it makes sense and it works. And now leg locks are jiu-jitsu. They fit into the framework. So I look at it the same way as you look at scientists who are trying to unify theories across different disciplines, right? Electricity and magnetism. Well, actually, they're similar. So now we have electromagnetism, and we put them in the same sense. So anytime I'm trying to, like, bring things in, I try to use reasoning. And so if I can, for example, another good one is, some of your coaches, don't show people your back. Why? Why shouldn't I show someone back? Well, because they'll take your back. Will they? Why? Why are they taking it? Well, they're taking my back because they've gained control of me. How are they going to gain control of me? Not just by magically being behind me. They don't freely get control of me. Wrestlers turn their back all the time. Can I show my back? And then, well, there's a plethora of examples of great people in jiu-jitsu and MMA showing their back and not having their backs taken. There's examples of beginners doing it and getting mauled. Well, what's the difference?
Getting mauled.
What is the difference between the person who turns their back and gets mauled and the person who turns their back and doesn't?
Is it experience? Is it the trying?
No. And that's in my opinion, that answer is the ultimate coaching cop-out. Because it's not wrong, but it's not satisfying or helpful either. It's kind of like when you can't get something, your coach is like, just train more. And he's right, or she's right. You will get better, but what's happening by training more? There's something you're missing.
Yeah,
and so
you might keep running into the same
for
problem
me,
over and
it's
over.
you must gain control of them. So my current favorite aphorism that I tell everyone is that all of defense in jiu-jitsu is to make your body into a shape that is difficult to attach to, because all of control is attachment. So if I change the shape of my body into a shape that's hard to attach to, you can't attach to me. So it brings us back to our point. You can be behind me all you want, as long as I make my body into a shape that you can't attach to. Generally speaking, how does someone attach to me? Well, they attach to me really using either the major points of control, which is the space between your armpit down to the back of your knee, or the minor point of control, which is this L from your head, shoulder to here. Think of every single control position in jiu-jitsu. Virtually all of them, or all of them that I can think of, involve controlling one or both of those spaces.
Right.
So if I keep you out of those spaces, even though you're behind me, suddenly you don't get control of me. So now I've freed up an entire new dimension of movement in my jiu-jitsu because I'm no longer crippled by my coach telling me don't ever show my back. Well, why did my coach tell me that? Well, there's 3 reasons. Reason number 1, his coach told him that.
Yeah.
And he's trying, in his view, and the old school view is this, the traditional view is, I'm a badass. Or if you're not using that language, I'm a great martial artist. And I want my students to be great martial artists. How can they be great? The same way I was. I'll do what my coach did. Done. Or, the second reason being, I know that there are exceptions to the rule, but I don't trust my students to be able to understand those exceptions, and it will complicate and confuse them, so I'm going to give them this shortcut, don't show your back. This is one of those, I'll teach you the rules, and then when you're better, you can break them. Mm-hmm. Right? Which makes
reasonable. Sense if you're teaching somebody new versus
it's also
advanced.
Quite reasonable, but I think the third way is my way, which is, no. I believe that you're smart enough, and I'm competent enough at communicating my reasons, that even as a beginner, I can explain to you when showing your back is okay. But you're going to get your back taken. But you're a beginner. You're going to get your back taken anyway.
Honestly, okay, so I'm feeling this really hard because I've lately been doing that a lot. Like, I'm giving up my back, but intentionally cause I'm aware that I can be taken. It sometimes gets taken, but I'm still, figuring it out, like.
I prefer.
But I'm experimenting. People are like, you're just going to show your back? You're just going to let me take your back? I'm like, that's not what I'm doing.
I do. That's my lazy way of doing it. I prefer you on my back than mounted.
No, I'm not trying to let them take my back.
I do because it's easier for me to escape, to get into a guard, to then.
No, I'm hitting a turtle and I'm trying to go for attacks. I'm trying to isolate their
pretty
limbs. You get
awesome.
me? Like.
I'm with both of you, so I'm going to tell you why I'm with both of you.
I do that sometimes.
I'm with you because there's a whole game to be had there, and if you get better at being able to show your back and not have it taken, your jiu-jitsu becomes bigger. Funny that you said that. What you gave is the exact point that Hodger Gracie gave his interview with Lex Friedman. Almost verbatim.
Really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Hodger Gracie
like, I do that when I really can't.
Hodger Gracie believes that the mount is the most dominant position in jiu-jitsu, and that if you're on someone's back, it's easier for them to do all the things that you just said.
To escape. Yeah, mount sucks, bro.
I
can rather have my back taken.
I can escape back control like this.
And he said so even if there's no strings. So it's interesting that you, I imagine, did you see that podcast?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So,
I feel so smart right now.
So without seeing that podcast, you came to the exact same conclusion as to arguably the best jiu-jitsu practitioner of his generation. So.
Good job.
There you go.
That's a good job. And I'm here like, I just want to do crazy shit.
Well, but I just want to do crazy shit is valuable too. Because I feel the same way about that. I think that stifling the creativity of beginners before they've even started makes them immensely predictable, and I think it literally narrows the avenues of which they can be creative. So it's kind of like an overprotective parent. You will protect them from getting their back taken in beginners competitions. So if your goal is simply to have them be effective in the here and now in the short term, don't ever show your back is great advice. Because you're a beginner, don't ever show your back, and it'll make it less likely that you're going to get beat up in these beginner competitions. But you're now going to have to program this rule into yourself, and then later in your career when you learn better, unprogram that rule. And so in the long term, you're going to have to go through a larger thing. So it's like, what do I care about? Do I care about you today, or do I care about you in 5 years? Which version of you is more important? Well, if I think you might quit jiu-jitsu tomorrow, well then I'll just give you the shortcut.
You don't think that it's important to reprogram yourself to evolve versus just being a free thinker from the get-go?
I don't know. I can't tell that because I was programmed that way by my coaches.
Which way, to be the free thinker?
No,
to be the,
I was being.
But I kind of feel like that's more beneficial though.
I don't know.
In the long run.
For foundation.
Yeah, for foundation work only.
Well, funny you should say that. I literally experimented on Natasha this way. Because of the fact that I was programmed, I never programmed Natasha. I never gave her any of those beginner things. I gave her the concepts from day one. And so she rolls weird as hell. She doesn't roll like anybody else.
She rolls weird as hell.
And literally everywhere we go, people who are with Natasha, they give her strange looks. What was that? I don't know what's going on. Like, and she'll give them, in my opinion, the best compliment that you can get in jiu-jitsu, at least in the beginning, which is, you're annoying. Natasha is an immensely annoying role. She's very hard to hold down. She's very hard to fully get control of because she's been giving up at least showing her back from day one. So when someone gets behind,
like 50 times.
so when someone gets behind her, she's not terrified. And I think if you minimize the amount of positions that cause terror, it allows you to be smart and comfortable and move. Now, I'm not saying that what you're saying isn't valid because it's what I went through. I had to unprogram a lot of my safety rails. I don't know what's better. I'm experimenting with it right now. Natasha's like kind of patient zero of like never having been taught that. And like I'm sure that it might have had some short-term deficits because in the beginning, because of the fact that I wasn't willing to be brutal with her, she never got the grit of brutality in the beginning because like I love her. Like there's things I'm going to do to my training partners that I don't love that I'm not doing to Natasha. It's just the truth. Like I'm not going to cross-face the living crap out of Natasha. I'm just not. But other girls will. Yeah. And so that's part of why I made sure I'm like, you can't just roll with me. You have to roll with someone who doesn't care about you and see how that feels.
Who doesn't care about
you. You have to roll with someone who's willing.
Listen, I just want, and because Natasha's in the room like cracking up in the corner. I just want you to know this. If I roll with you, I'm gonna cross-face you. Hold on. And if I do it, it's not because I don't like you. It's because I'm comfortable enough and I do like you.
I don't know if I cross-face you.
You can talk.
Yes, you have.
Oh. I don't recall. I don't know.
But here's the thing. I'm gonna say something in the background.
Don't worry, you're poltergeist this episode.
Okay. So, I'm not gonna lie. As soon as he was like, because I love her, I like immediately got emotional. I was just like, that's right, we love one another. Like that's why. Also, why our roles are different. Why we train differently, and why. You know, when I would come home either frustrated or excited or anything, it was always like good. So, but then when I really like someone and they have a really good crossface, I'm like, I'll celebrate it from the bottom. I'll be like, damn, that's good.
Oh yeah, today she was like, I live here. I think because I kept putting her
because
like I live here.
I'm so comfortable with someone, like as Charles was saying, like I'm comfortable being in weird positions because I got to learn how to feel comfortable in weird positions. So if someone's on top of me, I've learned how to have more resilience to someone's weight or someone's pressure or someone's angle or someone's control because we did that. And I did that, and I got to like do a lot of that experimentation. All right, I'm gonna go back over here.
All right.
I'm gonna disappear.
So I don't have the answer. I don't think that there's necessarily one right way, but I think that's the whole point. The whole point of what I was talking about with their idea of the way you're describing has been, and actually not even without even ever in a program. There's some black belts who are very, very good, who will never show their back to anyone, anyone at all. But then you have other black belts that are really good. Like Tom LeBlanc, for example, his guard doesn't get passed. How does he stop his guard from pass? He uses the turtle. He shows his back. But he's got very good back defense, so he doesn't get his back taken either. The idea of turtling and showing your back is a thing. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people have garbage turtles. So they turtle and immediately get their turtle murdered. And so it's not that necessarily. It's beyond just the idea of showing your back. It's everything you do in jiu-jitsu should have a reason why the heck you're doing it. And if the only reason you're doing it is because the ghost of Helio Gracie will come back and stop you, then you should probably think about why the hell you're doing it.
So if you're saying if not showing your back is a part of your game just because that's what you were taught versus that's just how you roll better, that's the problem.
Ding, ding, ding.
Got it. That makes
Say
sense.
that again. Sorry.
So if you're not showing your back for the sheer purpose that that's what they told you to do versus not showing your back because it's literally what just works for your game.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm experimenting with using it to add to my game. But everybody, keeps judging me. It's annoying.
Well, Well, it's also you're changing the rules. There's
I
a
should
lot
call
of
him a sheep, right?
there's a lot of it's kind of true. There's a lot of things in jiu-jitsu, like they're unspoken jiu-jitsu rules, and it's part of why. Have you ever met a complete beginner, like a white belt, who you have a harder time submitting than, like, say, another purple belt or a blue belt?
Sometimes.
But it's
Yeah.
because they're doing weird, and we're like, oh, you're just being a spaz. Well, okay, but what was jiu-jitsu, if we're gonna go back to tradition, what was it made for? It was made for trained people to deal with untrained, aggressive, strong people. And so if the spazzy, strong white belt, your jiu-jitsu doesn't work on them, well then you should probably examine your jiu-jitsu. It needs to have a way to...
Damn.
The shade. I'm kidding.
It needs,
Shots fired.
it needs to have a way to control a spazzy person. That's what
Right,
jiu-jitsu is meant
right,
for.
though.
I want to, and more so if you want to go even more to arte suave, gentle art, how smooth this is supposed to be, I should be able to control that spazzy person
Eloquent.
and not have to injure them and not get myself injured, which to me is the ultimate goal of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu if you're going to think of it as the spirit of the art. It's not just grappling. If you're just grappling, the goal is just to win. If I'm okay just winning, then, well, I can be brutal. I can be violent. I can smash your face. I can, do all kinds of brutal things. I can lean on the fact that I'm stronger than you and use that as a crutch to win. And that's still winning. You still won the grappling match. And good for you. I'm not going to fault you for it. But to me, like, the most beautiful moments in jiu-jitsu is when you can tell one person looks almost bored because they can just slickly move by and control the other
Steven.
person, and then the other
What
person
are
is
you
just virtually helpless. That's beautiful jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So those moments that look like magic, like I said in the beginning, like,
Yeah.
that's my favorite jiu-jitsu. That's my favorite jiu-jitsu. But you don't have to just do jiu-jitsu. Like, we're grapplers. Like, wrestling's great, judo's great, sambo's great. They all have their pieces. Catch wrestling's great. They all have their pieces. Like, I do catch wrestling moves that are not at all arte suave. I do the boss root and body crunch. It's literally like I'm grabbing you and turning you into a can opener and squeezing you. Like, it's not jiu-jitsu, but it's still cool and I enjoy it. So I'm gonna put it in my game.
So I'm with you.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh yeah. So what you're saying experimenting. I want to say that point.
What?
Sorry, I spoke really fast. The thing that you were saying about experimenting, about
Oh.
being able to show your back,
Oh yeah.
if you think about it like this, there's two ways to stop people from taking your back when they're behind you. Way number one is to close their means of controlling you, which is your armpits to the back of your knee. If you keep them out of that space, they can't control you. The second bit is right here in your neck. So if you shrug your shoulder and cover your chin, they can't get your neck. So if you come here kind of like this, they can't control you. So you're closing the spaces that they can control. The second way you can handle it is by simply holding the thing they would use to control you, which is either their arm or their leg. So if I hold your hand, you can't control me with your hand. If I hold your foot, you can't control me with your foot.
Right.
So if I'm doing one of those two things, even though you're behind me, you can't take control of me. You can't take control of me, you're not a threat. So I applaud your creativity, exploration. I'm giving you hopefully some guidance in making it more effective.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So
I'm
try.
getting a lot of hate.
Try.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm just like, damn guys. Like,
They're gonna
let me
hate.
explore my jujitsu.
They're gonna hate
Yeah.
until you start submitting them.
Oh yeah, they're gonna.
That's
they're
how it
gonna
works.
Be so mad.
If you, especially after you've done that, if you've been doing something that they are like, don't do that, it doesn't work, and then you make it work, people get salty.
People don't get salty. I like when people are salty.
Good.
All right, okay, because this totally took a.
Yeah, it took a turn. I'm like, I don't even care about these questions.
Same.
We're talking about way more interesting stuff, straight up. I do want to hear about your stuff with Globetrotters, though.
Sure.
How
What about
do you-
it?
How do you like carry all of that philosophical jujitsu-ness and analytics and creativity and all of that, and like translate it into teaching people all over the world? Different styles, different places, different languages, different everything.
Their style isn't really important to what I'm trying to get across. Because the beautiful thing about most of the things that I'm saying is it doesn't matter if you believe in it, it works.
Doesn't matter if you believe in it because you already know it works.
No, it's not about that I know it works, it's that it has to work. So like, I have techniques, right? So I do both. We're talking about the philosophical stuff though.
Yeah.
The philosophical stuff, it's just true. You can't disprove me because it's just true. It's kind of like, if I approach someone in a different country and I try to debate them about 2 plus 2 being 4, it's not a debate. 2 plus 2 just is 4. Or in the case of science, if I try and prove, if I'm like, hey, I'm going to talk to you about friction, you cannot disprove that friction is a thing. When two things are pushing together, no matter what, if you believe it or not, coefficients of friction are a thing. Things that are more porous cause more friction. When I'm in a gi, things are going to slip less than when I'm not in a gi. I don't care what style you do. It doesn't make what I'm saying false. So, and I can give you examples that are going to practically work for you immediately.
It's like sound jiu-jitsu.
And so, but versus if I tell you, hey, I play tornado guard. It's the best guard ever. And tornado guard is...
Is that real?
So what tornado guard is, it's a half guard situation where I put my leg between your legs. I invert upside down and then I catapult you over my head. Make you do a front flip. It's a guard that will really only work if you are comfortable inverting, are comfortable with being underneath someone who might be heavier than you, and comfortable with doing dynamic things. I'm not going to convince somebody who's older and has a bad neck or a bad back that tornado guard is good jiu-jitsu. I can't. I can't prove to them that it's good. Even if I hit the move on them, well, that's good for you, you're young. It's not something that is universal. It's something that's a specialty technique. And so I would never take that to a gym where the population wouldn't receive it well. I would, however, if I'm at a gym where a bunch of people that already like doing berimbolos, they all have inversion skills, well, guess what? This is a nice fit for this gym. But the conceptual stuff is universal. So I go all the way from super general with these concepts that I think are kind of truisms of grappling, all the way down to niche things that I might only take to certain gyms. So for example, I have a class called White Belt Safe Flying Submissions. And I always teach this class in one of two settings. In a gym that I think is open to it, or when the coach makes the mistake of telling me that I can teach whatever I want. And so like I remember we were just there at this gym in Palm Harbor, at my friend Tony Way and Brittany Way's gym. And one time when I went there to teach a guest class, they said those words to me. You can teach anything you want, Charles. And I looked at him and I was like, Tony, you mean it? Anything? He's like, anything.
Done.
Got you. We had 2 guys in there, both of which, one had been training 1 month, one had been training 3 months. Both of them were north of 250.
Jesus.
And I was like, you guys are doing this. Like,
You guys
what?
are gonna do flying
And so,
attacks.
because my favorite thing about that class is that
Yeah,
it's
I don't wanna
not,
take that
it's
class, no.
not about the flying arm bars or the flying submissions. It's about, I'm teaching you a psychological lesson. Because it will always be the young children or the older people or the people who are afraid who will be like, I can't do that. And I actually love when they say that in the beginning of class, I can't do that. Because in 35 minutes, every single one of them, 100% of the people I've ever taught this class to, does it. And no one ever gets injured.
It's like you read my mind.
And now,
I can't do that.
and now afterwards, I can look at you and be like, see, look, like, you thought you couldn't, and you were wrong. I wonder what else in your life you think you can't do that you're wrong about.
Oh.
And I get to have an impact on this person beyond Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's why I love that class. And so, but that's a different class. So like, I think the way that I can do this all over the world is that, one, I've been obsessed with teaching people in education since I was 13. At 13, I started teaching American Kempo Karate. I minored in education in college. I majored in physics and minored in education. And the way that great champions are obsessed with being champions and being more effective at winning. I'm obsessed with being a great instructor. I'm obsessed with becoming a better coach. I'm constantly looking for more teaching modalities and ways of instructing, as well as getting feedback from people when I teach a class, and feedback from Natasha, because she's always there about, was I losing people? Did I talk too long? Was my anecdote too long? Literally, Natasha will be occasionally next door to me and be like, get a little pinch and be like, a little poke, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm on the rabbit hole with this story. I gotta come back, and it's really, really helpful. But so having a wide variety of what I'm teaching, and then having those things that are universal. And in the case of Globetrotters,
Yeah, how do you even get involved?
I got really
How does that
lucky.
happen? How does that even happen?
I got really lucky. But not really, I guess luck in the definition of preparation meeting opportunity. because I did not intend to be a traveling jiu-jitsu instructor. I intended to do a trip around the world training jiu-jitsu, and just for a year. And then I planned to come back to Gainesville, Florida, and figure out the hell am I doing with my life now? Because I had a regular desk job for 8.5 years, and
Desk jobs are the worst.
I loved it. I loved it for 7 of those years, and the last year and a half was a bit hard. But at the same time, like, I'm stubborn, and I was like, no, you can do anything. You can do this too. And so just the role I was in didn't fit my skill set as perfectly, or I guess not my skill set, my mindset as perfectly as the previous ones did. Because I had a bunch of jobs for those 7 years, intern, analyst, software developer, all kinds of stuff along the way. And I thrived in all of them. In this last job, I didn't fully thrive. I wasn't the best. And all the previous jobs, whether I was or wasn't, I thought I was the best person at the whole company of my job. I can't say that I was, but it's how I felt. And internally, I felt like I'm the best. And when you feel like you're the best, you try to meet your standard of being the best. And so I performed really well. And that last job, I wasn't the best. Unequivocally, I was not the best. And I wasn't really doing, well, I guess kind of got tired. I got really tired. And so I started traveling. But during those travels, I wanted to teach, but I would call people and be like, hey, can I teach? And they'd be like, are you world champion? I'm like, no. Like, what have you won? I'm like, a few Nagas, some new breeds, like some local tournaments in Florida. Like, IBJJF, I've never even competed at IBJJF.
Never even.
Are you registered now with the IBJJF?
Are
No,
you competing at all?
No, I registered actually. My coach Hinaldo, who promoted me to black belt. I was white to brown under Beto Nunes, and then brown to black under Hinaldo Santos. He told me, Charles, register for the IBJJF, and so I did. Charles, the referees class, so I did. And then I competed in one tournament. I did pans. I lost in the first round. But the way that I lost just truly proved like the difference in the goal of my jiu-jitsu and the goal of IBJJF jiu-jitsu match. The goal of
Or
IBJJF...
competitive jiu-jitsu, I think, in general.
No. Because I had done well competing in all the local ones and the Nagas and those things, and pretty much the tactics and strategy around winning an IBJJF jiu-jitsu match using points and advantages in the rule set, and the professionalism of the people who are willing to travel across the country to pay to compete in a tournament that has no cash prize is a different level of gamesmanship, tactics, and understanding than the local tournaments at that time when this happened, which would be 2018. Right now, I'd say that the no-gi scene has gotten as professional, if not more professional.
Yes.
But 5 years ago, I don't believe that was true. I think the no-gi scene was still burgeoning. It was all along the way, like way beyond it was in like 2012. But I don't believe that it was at this crazy level it is right now. And so for me, it was, I'm trying to submit this guy. I'm trying to submit him at all times. I want to win. I want to hit him in a choke, an arm bar, a knee bar. I don't care. So I know the guy. I went all the way to California to Anaheim to this competition, and the guy actually owns the school 5 minutes, like 20 minutes from my mother's house in Boca Raton. So I'm like, I went all the way across the country. I could have driven to this guy's gym and rolled in for free. Why are we doing this?
I could have driven to this guy's house.
Well, because like that was how my view was always, but part of why I'm not a famous competitor, beyond the fact that like I don't think I care enough about winning to be a great competitor. I just don't care enough.
I have that same problem.
And I think that those people that win, they deeply want to win. They have that
Yeah,
fire.
you have to have that.
They want to win. And meanwhile, I'm like, I've been waiting all this time. Like, I want a burrito. Like, that's, like,
It's hard
For
waiting.
me,
For
it's
it's my
so-
turn yet.
It's anxiety, and then it's I don't want to win more than anyone there. I'm not a competitive.
and so like
person.
I am competitive, but like for me,
Selectively.
I want to submit you. I don't want to play this game. Like the game didn't interest me, but like they're so good at that game, and so I think I had like probably 5 or 6 or 7 submission attempts in that match.
Nice.
I did my tornado sweep. I threw him, but I had a tactical error where I wasn't able to solidify it for 3 seconds. That was what happened repeatedly throughout the match. I would almost get something. He understood the rules. He understood that even if he fell to his back and I swept him, as long as he gets up within 3 seconds, I get nothing. As long as, and so I almost did a bunch of stuff because I had some flaws in my game, some stuff that wasn't quite polished. because the people that I had been competing against and rolling with weren't at the caliber where they would recover quickly. He was a great black belt who is now in the Masters division, so he is now like on his like home stretch. He wasn't still doing his prime stuff. He'd been competing. He's a great guy. He owns a gym. He's a very talented jiu-jitsu practitioner. But why I lost was because he was just better at tactics. He never let me compete in a gym roll. If you watched it, for me it'd be like, oh, nothing happened. It was even. But in the rule set, he was able to, when he passed my guard and was going for points, I wasn't trying to get back up. I was trying to go for a submission from the inferior position. I wanted to get submissions, and he understood that and kept escaping, but he was racking up points. He scored a bunch of points on me.
And I love the sub-only event.
And then, but
It's
the
point
cool,
games
but the cool
too
thing
much.
about it was that it taught me a lot. I learned a lot from that event. I also learned at that point in time that rule set bored me because I watched the finals, and it was two people faking submissions and like stalling, and then like, whereas now you have these great gi competitors like Marigali and the Rotula brothers and Musumeci that have made the things exciting again. But in 2018, I was very sad about it. And so then I was just like, you know what? Truthfully, I've never loved competing. You know what I love open mat. Because I remembered it, because especially when I was broke in the beginning, I want to go and roll. If I go to open mat, I pay $10, $15. I get to roll with the whole gym. I might get 6, 7, 15 rolls. It'd be awesome. I go to a tournament, I'm going to pay $80. And if I lose, I get one roll. It's wasting my time. It's horrible. I just want to roll.
It's horrible.
And so I started traveling, and everyone didn't want to book me. And I got lucky. This one guy, his name is, and I always bring him up because he's responsible for me getting my shot with Globetrotters.
Nice.
His name is Dan. He owns a gym in Taiwan. It used to be called Danimal. It actually burned down.
Oh.
And so then he has a
Wait,
new
his
gym.
gym burned
Yeah, his gym
down?
got
Jesus.
caught fire and burned down. And so he has a new gym that I think, what is it called? It's called Catch Jiu-Jitsu. And I went to it back, it was called Danimal. And it was the coolest moment in my jiu-jitsu career up to that point. Because he offered me, he's like, you can come teach at my gym. I'm like, cool, I can teach at the gym? Awesome. And so I was like really, really happy. And so I get there, but I didn't realize that like he was gonna test me. So I get there, and he takes me to the gym. He takes me out to lunch. And then he takes me to the gym with him, one of his blue belts, one of his purple belts. Gym's pitch black. There's no one in there but us. And he's like, all right, let's roll. And so like him and his two students, like pretty much I roll with everybody. And like they're trying to murder me. They're trying to test me and like make sure that they're not about to pay somebody who sucks at jiu-jitsu to do a seminar.
Fair enough.
And I think I did well enough that he's like, all right. And he told me the dates and times that I was going to be teaching. I was like, all right, I did it. And to me, it was an awesome moment. And after that happened, he went and told Christian Gaugard, who's the owner of BJJ Globetrotters, about me. And he told me about what I'm doing, because I already posted in the Globetrotters group that I was going to be traveling. And he's like, this guy's pretty cool. He's doing what I'm doing, because Christian Gaugard did that. He did his own trip all the way around the world. And he wrote the book, The BJJ Globetrotter. And then that's kind of what started his whole thing, was this trip around the world. And then with all the friends that he made, he started doing the camps, and the camps became a big deal. And it kind of became, in my opinion, like one of the biggest and most interesting camps in the world.
Can anyone go to these camps?
Anyone can go to the camp. You just pay for it.
How much do they
They run very differently. I'd say that the least
I'm
expensive.
sure it's like all of them.
The least expensive camp I think is the one in Germany. I think it's around $300, $350. More? What's it now?
No. The least expensive is between Arizona and Germany, and they've risen with inflation and stuff. I think it's probably between $200 to $300 now.
Yeah.
It used to be
For
a little
one day?
less.
Or like
No, it's a week.
Oh, a week.
They're all between 4 and 7 days. All the camps.
That's super cool. I wanna
Well, a
go to
couple
one.
$100 for that in one of these.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the reason why some of them cost different prices, the most expensive one I think is probably almost like $2,000 or something, but that usually includes lodging.
Oh, okay.
And so, like-
Okay.
And so like,
Fair.
but to be a coach at it, Christian's previous rule was that you had to come as a camp attendee at least once, so he can get to know you and make sure you're not a douche, and that you fit the vibe of the camp, and then maybe he'll select you to be an instructor. He made an exception for me and let me become an instructor like without seeing me, because I got vouched for by Dan. And then he sponsored me and gave me some gear as I traveled. This is actually one of the shirts I got as my Globetrotters sponsorship.
It's a shirt with iguanas, guys.
Yes, iguanas and flowers and such.
Flowers and iguanas.
Because
Very fitting for Miami.
Yes, and so that was the beginning. I got to teach in Heidelberg, Germany, and I taught at that camp, and it went really, really well. And then after that, I just was kind of considered to be one of the Globetrotters instructors, and he would let me know and I could sign up to teach at camps. And then from there, people liked what I was doing, and I parlayed that into like being able to teach some seminars places. And then from there, I ended up coming back to America, visited Boston. My friend Aaron used to be one of the instructors over at Bernardo Farias, and I went there and was rolling, and I caught one of their guys in a weird submission, which was the boss root and body crunch. Bernardo and all the black belts were talking about me behind my back, and were like, this new guy came in, he did a weird move. Yeah, what was he doing? So Bernardo took me aside, and I got to make a video with Bernardo Faria about the boss root and body crunch, and he called it the polemic submission. Like, is it legal or not legal? He thought it was a neck crank. I thought it wasn't, and we got to have a little video. And then from there, Mike Zenga, the other owner of BJJ Fanatics, randomly wanted to roll with me while I was there. He's this giant man, and he's randomly wanted to roll with me. We rolled together. I guess I did well enough, and then he's like, "Okay, do you have 40 techniques?" What? Like, do you have 40 techniques that you could film? Okay, yeah. And he's like, okay. And he gave me a check, shook my hand. He's like, all right, wow. Gordon Ryan is filming in 3 days, so you need to be ready in 2.
What?
Okay.
And so I went home with my friend Aaron and just like told him what happened. He's like, that's awesome, man. I'm like, that's awesome. I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do. And so I've been traveling. The seminar I've been teaching was called Leg Locks 101. It was, and I wasn't, Leg Locks 101 was what I called it. I used to call it leg locks for people who were afraid to do leg locks. And they hated that name. And so they renamed it Leg Locks 101. Their marketing people said no. But I had been traveling with it so long, I did the entire instructional in one take. And I was so nervous because this is right after John Danaher had put out his very first leg lock instructional. And I was just like, why are people going to want to buy my instructional? They're going to buy John Danaher's. Like, am I even qualified to be doing this? And I was like super imposter syndrome. And but it came out.
We all feel that.
And it did really well. And it sold a bunch. And then the rest is history there. And then from there, I remember when I met Natasha, I told her that like she should come travel with me and do jiu-jitsu, and that she could do massage because jiu-jitsu people are always achy and hurting, and they would love her services. But I was like, but if you're gonna come to the camp, you should at least be a white belt. And she's like, what do you mean? I was just like, if you're not really a jiu-jitsu person, I don't think that you're going to be able to understand us, and I don't think people are going to relate to you as well. I think if you're at least a white belt before you come to the camp, it would be good. And that, the rest is history. She ended up training on her own, and then I came back, and we had like that fun story that you can see if you listen to her podcast. And then the rest is history. Ended up taking her in the pandemic to the camp in the Caribbean as her first camp. And then we kind of found our groove where she started teaching the Thai massage, and then she started helping with my classes, and now our life is wandering around and training jiu-jitsu. And it's pretty cool. And the Globetrotters has been like a great opportunity for me to just make friends all over the world, and like now I have like literally someone, like a bed or a mat to sleep on in like 30 or 40 countries. It's kind of cool. Like I've made that many buddies all over the world.
That's crazy. Okay, I guess to
sum this all up.
Yeah. How would you describe your jiu-jitsu, or I guess your unique style?
Oh, I love it.
That's 3 to 5 words.
3 to 5 words.
Oh, now he's nervous.
I know that's hard for you to say.
No.
I just want you guys to know and paint this picture. Natasha is losing it in the corner.
And like that cheerleader in the background that doesn't actually know how to cheer, but she's still excited. That's me in the background. You got this. You got this. 4 to 5 words long-winded.
He's got to count.
5 words.
Yeah. Oh, you said 3 to 5. I'm going 5 for sure.
Yeah. So, alright, 5 words. I see you on the full hand.
I always do 1 word and then drop mic.
No. I mean, I could. Actually, one word would be easier, but it's cringy, and I can't do that right now.
I kind of want to know what the one word is.
Oh,
is it
I-
magnificent?
No, it's magical all day.
Magical.
Like jiu-jitsu should feel like magic. And so like if I just use one word, that's easy. But like more words, I would say efficient. I would say playful.
Mine's
I would say
playful. Only two.
no, because I don't wanna blur like muddy the
Thoughtful?
waters. Yeah, that's not really as I'm
Nope.
doing it. I try to be. I don't usually want to be thinking
Efficient.
right there.
playful.
Efficient, playful. What's that word? I'm gonna make this a contracted word. Self-healing,
Oh, okay.
because the concepts allow it to be ever evolving. Ooh, I like that as well. Ever evolving.
Ever evolving.
Okay, I like
So
that
we
too.
got, and then my last one would be fluid.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Okay. Alright, one more thing. Not one more word. What advice would you give to all the BJJ practitioners out there? Female, males? What's like an important statement that you think would help everybody in their jiu-jitsu?
Oh, we keep giving you hard ones.
Well, because once you hold me to a number of things, because I would just say lots of things, but you said one thing,
Like one sentence.
so I have to pick the one thing.
The most
Um,
important. The most effective.
Can I do two?
Fine.
All right. So my first thing would be understand the why behind what you're doing and question your habits. That's the one thing. Yeah,
That's one.
And then the second thing would be set up a manner of training which allows you to have progressive resistance. Meaning, don't try your new shit on people who are good, but have someone who can dial the intensity up and down to allow your new idea to be nurtured and grow. Because if you take your new idea to somebody really good, they're just going to crush it and it's going to die. You need to have small amounts of ever increasing resistance so that your idea can grow and flourish. And that's the way you're going to grow, is to be able to have your little science experiments everywhere that are growing and flourishing. If you just have you might have a thread of an idea. By itself, it might be crap. But if you just immediately drop it in the deep end of rolling against one of your peers, it's gonna die, and it's gonna have extinction immediately, and you're not gonna be able to see. There might be a thread over here of this weird shit you thought of, but you're never gonna know because you battle tested it against something that your A game is having trouble with. Your experiments are never gonna match up to your A game in the beginning. So why are you testing them in the same laboratory?
Love that. Those are two very good pieces of advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now I understand why you and Danny are friends. You're
Yeah.
very
This was a very illuminating conversation.
Well,
for me.
Speaking of Danny, I used a now fully formed version of something that like he inspired me into years ago. I don't know if you guys remember. He was on his Penrose system.
Yes.
Yes, you know what I'm talking about balance and frames and not
Oh.
falling over.
Oh yes.
I used something like, and when he said that, it like sparked something in me back years ago, and I have like nourished that idea, and it's now a fully formed thing. And I taught it to one of the guys in the gym today about why they couldn't sweep me, but I could sweep them, and it was based upon a small little idea that I got from him years ago that's grown into a big part of my game. Like I love people like Daniel that are also like obsessed with jiu-jitsu and thinking, because like they're gonna say some shit, and I'm gonna be like, there's something there. And he's gonna keep evolving, but I'm gonna now like crossbreed with all of my ideas and make a little mutant.
I'm gonna make sure that I just play, because I know he's not gonna listen to this, but just that part I'm gonna play it for him because I know he's gonna love hearing that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sitting down.
No,
with
this
us,
was great.
Charles.
I
You're
love
super
talking.
Cool, bro. I love talking.
But also like you guys are fun to talk to because like you're paying attention and like there's a back and forth, like especially back from the beginning. Like I didn't expect you to say that thing that Hodger Gracie said. And I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Going back to that.
To be fair, it's because I'm lazy and it's easier for me to get out of the back than it is for me to get out of mount.
Don't
So
take
I'll
away
keep
from
it
yourself.
back.
You said some profound shit.
Profound shit. Just take it.
Don't backtrack.
Accept it. All right. So I guess let everyone know where they can follow you.
Yeah, just like the last episode.
Charles Harriott, spelled Harriott at Instagram. So that's my Instagram. That's also my website, www.charlesharriott.com. If you want to find me on BJJ Fanatics, just literally type in Charles Harriott into there, into the search. You'll find my instructionals on YouTube. Same thing. My name is unique. There's not many Charles Harriotts. So if you just Charles Harriott BJJ, I have free instructionals from BJJ Globetrotters on Globetrotters in Action. So you just type that into YouTube, like BJJ Globetrotters, Charles Harriott. You'll get a bunch of free instructionals. And if you like me, I do Zoom instructionals in which you may or may not see Natasha as an uke. I also do in-person instructionals. And if you are somewhere on earth and you want to import Natasha and I to come teach you Jiu-Jitsu, hit us up. We'll come on out and do a seminar.
Import them.
I love it.
He is very interesting to follow. Definitely worth following his journey, their journey, all of it.
Definitely one of the more interesting ones out there.
Try not to be boring.
Yeah.
And once again, you can follow us on.
Oh, Natasha's reminding me that as of right now, there are 2 instructionals on BJJ Fanatics, but there are 2 more coming out. One is a collaboration with Chris Paines and I, which will be all about standing up, and then one is a collaboration with Natasha and I, which will be all about attacks from the elbow frame. And right now, my favorite class that I think I've ever taught, like I just had a vibe about it. It's called Using the Elbow Frame as a Get Out of Jail Free Card. It just came out on YouTube. I highly recommend checking it out because it is the inspiration for the 2 instructionals that are going to come out from BJJ Fanatics in the coming months.
So make sure you follow him on Instagram so you know when those videos go live.
Definitely gonna check that video out.
But that one's live right now. Using the Elbow Frame as a Get Out of Jail Free Card. That's the name of it, on YouTube.
So familiarize yourself with that for the next
Yes, that's like your homework.
That's your
one.
homework.
I'm gonna pay attention. I'm gonna watch it.
Same.
You can follow us on our Instagram, Sisterhood of the Traveling Gi. You can also follow me on Instagram at Edelia22.
And me, Ashley, at Dark Nebula BJJ. Did I mention? Do
Yep.
you remember my name?
I remember your name now. Natasha helped me to like put it all together.
I don't think you'll forget it.
I won't, but it was. I'm telling you.
You can
if
still call me
This is
Dark
what
Nebula.
you
though.
get
I
when your
actually love
Instagram
that.
name is too cool.
I
Like,
love that though.
see, your Instagram name is your name, so I'm not gonna mess your name up.
But I mean,
Honestly, you're
is
not
true.
the only one that's called me Dark Nebula in like real life. So.
Also,
I
like
kinda love
you
it.
you also wear like the spacey patterns on your spats, so like it's all calling back to Dark Nebula.
I love it.
so that's it for us.
Thanks again, Charles, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
We're tapping out.